I think now you can hear me. Good. So I think while she was announcing you, it was the right thing to be loud because you are an important guy. So, well, he is actually my university colleague, and we know each other for more than 28 years. But you know, you've been an industry IT veteran for so many years. You worked in multiple countries and multiple roles. Let's first have the audience briefly get to know you. If you can introduce yourself a bit.
Sure, thanks, Uygar. So when you said we know each other for 28 years, that was from the childhood, yeah, not from the university. So not to give away our ages. So my name is Ferruh Gurtas. I'm currently the Innovation Programs and Partnerships Director at Intel for Europe, Middle East and Africa region. But as Uygar mentioned, this is my 20th year at Intel, so a long Intel veteran. I've done different roles in sales, marketing, operations, corporate affairs recently. And I lived in 2 different countries as part of my Intel career on top of Turkey, so UK and UAE, Dubai. But I never done a technical job, by the way, at Intel. Although by education I'm an engineer, electronics engineer, I never really did a technical work at Intel. And today's topic, artificial intelligence, sounds very technical. But I'm not really intending to go into any technicalities of it. I'll keep my session at a high level about the business value and the overall, I would say, definition of artificial intelligence.
Okay, so just before we dive into artificial intelligence, let's start with its fuel, which is data. So where is your focus on data and how do you see leveraging it for analytics?
As you said, data is the fuel of today's world. It's new currency, as we all say now. But it's different than money or land, oil or gold. I mean, because it's unlimited, and it keeps expanding exponentially every year. So that's why data is quite interesting in terms of creating the business imperative for artificial intelligence as well as many other technologies. So just think about today's the data that's created in the world as of today. Has 90% of it only has been created in the last 2 years. And if you look into the future, by 2020, there will be 50 billion devices, and there are different numbers, and 200 billion sensors connected to the internet that will generate huge amounts of data. One person, just one single person, will generate 1.5 gigabytes of data per day by 2020. One connected car or autonomous car is going to generate 4 terabytes of data. One smart factory is going to generate 1 petabyte of data by 2020, and 1 petabyte is roughly going to be equal to 700,000 people. So one smart factory is going to generate as much data as almost like a small size city of a 700,000 population. And this data, of course, is going to include a lot of insights and foresights about our business that can create efficiencies, that can create business a competitive advantage for us. But of course, we need to understand how we need to read that data. So to extract those insights and foresights from data, we need analytics. And unfortunately, humans are not really capable of handling that much of analytics. And that's where artificial intelligence comes into play. So we need artificial intelligence to be able to create insights, foresights, and competitive advantage from all that data. And analytics then becomes the key tool that we will use, and there are, of course, different types of analytics. So for example, descriptive, and we use descriptive and diagnostic analytics to understand what happened in the past and why it happened. But knowing the past is not really good enough. I mean, it helps, but not enough. So then there's prescriptive and predictive analytics, which then helps us to create by going into the details of the data that creates kind of the best options for us and shows us the way. Then comes into play, the cognitive analytics, where then, the analytics starts acting like a human mind, and it creates really the competitive, it looks into the data, and then it picks the best options for us by, doing a lot of prediction and, data recognition, pattern recognition, and all that. So with that data, then, the business can, provide different type of services, can provide, customization, efficiency, more quality in, the services that they offer. And then, artificial intelligence with that type of application becomes really an indispensable tool for the business, and not anymore, kind of a a scene or a line item in a a sci-fi movie or something.
So based on that, how do you define artificial intelligence?
I think that artificial intelligence really becomes machines or systems mimicking the human mind and even exceeding the cognitive functions of the human mind. So cognitive analytics and cognitive functions. So cognition is the key word here. So, and cognitive functions are really those like memory, language. I mean those functions that are required to turn data or information into knowledge. And that's where cognitive and in cognitive analytics also and in cognitive functions, you need to use different technologies like artificial intelligence, like deep learning and memory, machine learning. So if you do that, then you can recognize patterns. You can read kind of the future. You can do memorization and all that. And then artificial intelligence, then in terms of definition, becomes machines or systems predicting, recognizing patterns, making decisions, even thinking on behalf of us, on behalf of the humans.
Okay, so, but like it's been more than 60 years since we started talking about artificial intelligence, and people always thought that it's just around the corner. Why do you think it is now for AI?
I think that's a very good question because many people say, yeah, artificial intelligence, it has been around, since 1950s. A lot of research went to it in 1980s, and a lot of course, money went into it in 1980s. So why today we believe is an inflection point for artificial intelligence? Because mainly, back then the timing wasn't right. So today, the main reason that artificial intelligence becomes a reality is because of the merger of, compute and data. And specifically, three things is really, making AI a reality today. So number one, larger data sets. So as I said, there will be 50 billion devices and 200 billion, sensors creating all that data. The data that will be created in the world will double every other year, and will reach to like 40 zettabytes of data by 2020. And we need all that data to train, to educate the systems with artificial intelligence. Number two is faster hardwares. As a result of Moore's law, Gordon Moore is one of our founders, as Intel. So as a result of Moore's law, now we have enough power, hardware power, to be able to, first of course generate that data, but also, read that data and do the analytics on that data. And number three is really, the algorithmic innovation, better algorithms. So there has been a lot of innovations on the algorithmic side that, now we passed the threshold that, artificial intelligence is no more a research item, but it's really, a day-to-day technology that we are using. We had, breakthroughs in image and speech recognition in 2009, 2012, and then at the ImageNet Vision Computer Contest in 2016, a neural network-based system even outperformed, a human mind.
Okay, so where do you see the practical uses of AI?
Yeah. So all these, insights and foresights that we will generate and we will capture from the data by using, the three things I mentioned, larger data sets, faster hardware, better algorithms. Really, this will transform the world and change the way that we live in a way that, happens once or twice in a century. And it's going to change how we experience life at home, at work, even how we do sports and art. So today, we see a breakthrough of, innovations happening with artificial intelligence. We have facial recognition, voice commands, robots, and even art is changing. There's a person, Refik Anadol, not sure how many of you heard of him. So Refik Anadol is a Turkish, media artist and also a lecturer at the UCLA. And he's creating he's creating images by capturing data like the wind. So he has images called, the winds of Istanbul, the winds of Boston. I wish we had, projection to show them. It's quite interesting. I really like you to Google and see that. So he creates, data, 20-second intervals of like speed and direction of wind, and then he turns that data into data paintings. So basically, data becomes the source of his art, which is, quite interesting. And there are many more, such interesting examples, but I think a better question will be, which industries are going to lead this and which will be the fastest adapters of artificial intelligence. And I think, those industries or segments that has a clear use case, it's important really to create some, value out of AI. High purchasing power, still it's expensive to create those systems. And of course, high rewards for quick and accurate decision making will be the ones that will lead. And if, as Intel, and using some also, data from the, companies, we believe that by 2020, the biggest three segments that will be the leaders of artificial intelligence in terms of market size will be consumer, health, and finance. And since we are in a fintech, summit, and we are all consumers, I want to focus on those two ones. Although there are many other, of course, industries, that will utilize AI. So in consumers industry, smart assistants. We already started using, Apple Siri, Amazon's, Alexa, which is now, automating our lives. We have, chatbots, and those are like, online chat. WeChat, for example, is an online chat agent that, responds to people without you recognizing there's a robot, talking to you, and there's no waiting time anymore. Yeah, I mean, so augmented reality, virtual reality, personalization. These are really, real use cases, and there are, examples that's live today. In finance industry, algorithmic trading models and the data sources, for example, like CNBC's Kensho, is analyzing data and predicting stock movement. United Services Automobile Association is using one of our acquired technology, Saffron technology, for fraud detection. And one example that I really found interesting is on risk mitigation. So IBM acquired Promontory Financial Group, and now they apply AI, to proactively identify potential fraud or misconduct by, listening to the trader conversation. So they apply some, voice surveillance technology, and when two traders are talking, from their speech and, perhaps the tone or whatever, they recognize that there is something fishy going on, and you can even prevent fraud before it happens, and then, you don't need to think about after-the-fact precautions.
Okay, so then what is Intel doing in all of this? What's Intel's role?
I think, we really understand and believe in the transformational power of AI, and we want to democratize, the benefits of AI for the whole, industry, so everyone can benefit from it. So we mainly do three things. First, as I said, we did some acquisitions because we believe in the integration of hardware and software for the best AI experience. So we acquired companies like Nirvana, Saffron, Movideus, and Mobileye for that integration. Then we launched an internal artificial intelligence group that works with the customers so that they can integrate the customized AI solutions into their portfolio. And then we have a research and software team that contributes to the software frameworks that many applications are now based on. And then if you look into the future, what we're working on, those are some new processing technologies like quantum computing and neuromorphic computing. In quantum computing, you have qubits, which represents multiple states. You don't have only two states of zeros and ones. There are almost infinite number of states that you can use, and that gives you massive, parallel processing power that you can then solve problems that today's even supercomputers cannot solve in months or years. And then in neuromorphic computing, which is quite interesting, then you really create a processor not on the traditional CPU and memory architecture, but you connect neurons in a silicon, and then the silicon starts acting like a brain and mimics its functions of observation and how it learns and how it understands. And we have a functional research chip that we call the Loihi. And Loihi, in just a few weeks, started to recognize some objects. So that's like, you create a silicon chip and then it grows like a baby and starts recognizing objects.
So there are many examples and many things going on. It's a very extensive subject, and our next panel will be also going into more details on that. But before we finished, we are almost out of our time. Just very shortly, is there anything that you want us to leave with?
Yeah. I think there are two things that artificial intelligence, two challenges it will create, but also they're kind of interlinked, and the solution can be even artificial intelligence. So number one, many of the applications today are really focusing on the efficiency of artificial intelligence, not creating new industries or creating new jobs. It creates optimization and some productivity. But the real use and the real future benefit and the economic benefit of AI will come from utilizing it for really new scientific advancement that will create new industries, and then you can create new jobs. So that's number one. So we need to utilize our scarce AI resources for scientific discovery, really. Of course, on top of the commercial applications, there's nothing wrong doing that. And number two is, of course, the skills gap, because according to a study, for example, done by World Economic Forum, 35% of the skills that will be required in 2020 doesn't exist yet. So there's a huge skills gap, and that is really, one of the key things that we should, as an industry, work together and try to address. So on one side, we need to work on, how we work together and, create some scientific advancements, and on the other side, we need to, not only train or educate the youth, but also train, reskill or upskill our existing employees so that they can be ready for the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.